Next news. Breaking news.
A man tied to Minnesota's biggest fraud scandal. He bought a round-trip ticket from Minneapolis to London in November of 2021, vanished, and turned up 4.5 years later in Mogadishu, Somalia. That's not a paperwork error, that's a cartel. And tonight, Donald Trump's DOJ and Kash Patel's FBI just ripped the mask off the whole machine. Feeding our future. Hidden snap rolls. More than 1 million Obamacare enrollees with no social security number on file. A CCP-linked Marxist cash network pushing $278 million into the American left. One story, one pattern, one giant theft operation. And the people who scream trust the system were guarding it. See, this matters because every dollar in these scams came out of your pocket and out of programs that were supposed to help actual Americans. Kash Patel flatly said that Abdikerm Eidleh helped orchestrate a massive $250 million scheme that stole food resources from vulnerable Americans and turned the money into luxury cars and mansions. Then President Trump dropped the bigger bomb. Hundreds of billions of dollars were stolen, and his team can save Social Security without touching benefits simply by shutting the fraud spigot. That line should shake Washington to its core. And look who fought the oversight. Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Kentucky. Trump's DOJ moved to force those states to hand over snap rolls after they refused to turn over the data to the USDA. Refuse, not delayed, not misplaced, straight up refused. Then HHS and CMS exposed more than 1 million Obamacare enrollees with no Social Security number on file after the Biden administration gutted basic checks. That is organized looting with political protection. And Democrat machines like Tim Walz's Minnesota sat right in the middle of it. And when $250 million fraud trail runs from Minnesota to Mogadishu, you stop trusting paper promises and start looking at what holds value in the real world. That's why I want you to look at Noble Gold Investments. Think about silver as the next oil, a critical resource, the metal the future depends on, powering solar panels, electric vehicles, defense systems, AI infrastructure, and massive data centers. Demand keeps growing, and it's still affordable enough that the average American can start accumulating physical silver to protect against inflation and own strategic resources before the crowd wakes up, before dependence explodes worldwide. Go to nextnewsgold.com, mention my name. When you open a new qualified account, Noble Gold can send you a 1/10 ounce gold coin. While the fraud cartel scrambles, you can move first. Now here's the part that blows this story wide open. The same states that lecture you about compassion would not even hand USDA the names on their snap rolls so investigators could check whether the identities were real or drawing benefits in multiple states. At the same time, RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz found more than 1 million Obamacare enrollees with no Social Security number on file. So I'm going to bring it all to you. I'm going to present it all, but keep one word in your head: verification, because the machine hates it for a reason. The FBI calls him the number 2 guy in Minnesota's largest ever fraud scheme. He's behind bars thousands of miles away. Listen to this.
The FBI calls him the number 2 guy in Minnesota's largest ever fraud scheme. This evening, he is behind bars thousands of miles away. Only WCCO's Jonah Kaplan talked to the team who tracked him down on another continent. And Jonah joins us right now. So he's been on the run for years.
Yeah, Amelia, if you go back to the original indictment for Feeding Our Future, there's Amy Bach, the convicted ringleader, and then this gentleman, Abdikerm Eidleh. He was last seen in Minnesota in November 2021.
Abdikerm Eidleh had booked a round-trip ticket from Minneapolis to London and never came back. But here he is in custody in Mogadishu, Somalia, 4.5 years later.
This office has now been focusing intensively on fraud against the taxpayers of the United States and the taxpayers of Minnesota.
U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen and FBI Special Agent in Charge Christopher Dodson sat down with us for an exclusive interview about the joint operation with Somali intelligence.
It shows that the long arm of American law reaches all around the globe, that even in Somalia, you can't escape the FBI.
Was this something where you got a tip and all of a sudden he reappeared again? Mr. Eidleh was on our radar for some time. I can tell you that we had been tracking his whereabouts for a couple of weeks. And when the time was safe and opportune for law enforcement, they sprung to action to take him into custody.
It sounds pretty significant that the government of Somalia was actually working with the United States, the FBI.
We were hand in glove in this investigation from the start, and we owe a lot of gratitude to them for the success of this operation.
Along with Bach, Eidleh allegedly recruited and bribed the businesses that submitted fake receipts and invoices to the Minnesota Department of Education in the Feeding Our Future scheme. Investigators also allege Eidleh personally took in more than $5 million in cash and used some of it to buy a house in Burnsville, and also sent some of that to Uganda, China, and the UAE.
There were other people of importance, but there was, after Amy Bach, nobody exceeded Mr. Eidleh in importance in the Feeding Our Future scheme.
Well, maybe Ilhan Omar should be on your radar, too. So the arrest in Somalia is a big catch. Now the FBI putting a number on the damage. Kash Patel says the alleged ringleader helped drive $250 million scheme and stole food from people who actually needed it. He was an alleged ringleader, one of the largest fraud scandals in history, orchestrating a massive $250 million scheme to steal critical food resources from vulnerable Americans who needed it. But thanks to a brilliant op from this FBI and our great partners, we got him, and now he will face justice. Minnesota man captured in Somalia after allegedly helping orchestrate $250 million child nutrition fraud scheme. So the Minnesota fraud ring gets squeezed overseas, and the Trump team says the cleanup is here at home is next. The DOJ moving to force Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky to hand over SNAP rolls they refuse to share. Trump DOJ legally moved to force the states of Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky to turn over the SNAP rolls. What are they hiding?
Into the system. And once you get a SNAP card, the floodgates are open. You bring that to Mass Health, you bring it to HUD, you bring it to anywhere you want, and the benefits flow.
What's the verification process?
We don't know. Literally, we have asked the state to provide us with the names of the people who are on the rolls now. Now, these are names, the federal government gives the state billions of dollars to distribute. We asked them, USDA asked them for the list of names of the recipients, and they refuse to turn them over. And the USDA wants the names and the identifiers so they can confirm whether these people are actually true identities or are also receiving these payouts in other states.
So were you surprised how easy it was to find this out and follow this trail of deception and then find out who's responsible? Was there a sense of impunity amongst these fraudsters?
There's actually been a sense of impunity. Our investigation started in December.
So the states won't turn over the names. That raises the question every taxpayer should be asking. What are they hiding? Next, the USDA watchdog warned SNAP fraud isn't just wasteful. It's been tied to terrorist gangs and drug deals. SNAP fraud linked to terrorists and criminals. USDA Inspector General John Walk warned Congress that proceeds from food stamp fraud have gone to individuals tied to terrorists and transnational criminals. Walk described one case where SNAP benefits were exchanged for cash and crack cocaine, with gang members using the proceeds to purchase firearms. So if food stamp fraud is feeding criminals, the rock clearly goes deeper than one busted program. Now, the focus shifts to healthcare, where a new warning says more than 1 million Obamacare enrollees have no Social Security number on file. Sean Hannity writes, 1 million Obamacare enrollees have no Social Security number on file. RFK says taxpayers are funding fake people. So after the questions about the fake people, Trump team says they found the bigger mess. RFK Jr. and Nancy Mace point to an estimated $10 billion fraud disaster after Biden-era eligibility checks were gutted. Nancy Mace says, for years we were told the system was good and fraud never happened. It happened at a massive scale funded by your tax dollars. HHS and CMS just confirmed an estimated $10 billion fraud mess that piled up while the Biden administration gutted the Obamacare and eligibility checks meant to catch exactly this. Here's RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. HHS Secretary, I'm joined today by my good friend and anti-fraud warrior, CMS Administrator, Dr. Mehmet Oz. Healthcare fraud and corruption affect millions of Americans, and maybe even you. The Obamacare marketplace is plagued by fraud, in large part because the Biden administration dismantled basic program integrity guardrails, while partisan lawfare blocked common sense efforts to protect taxpayers. Today, Dr. Oz and I are exposing one of the latest examples of fraud that we've uncovered. More than 1 million people enrolled in Obamacare without Social Security numbers on file. That is a glaring warning sign of fraud. If even a single person was on Obamacare with no Social Security number, we should have found out. Why are we paying people who we don't know if they actually exist?
Shady insurance agents and other bad actors have been getting paid to enroll unsuspecting Americans in health plans they never signed up for. These rogue agents have been flooding into healthcare.gov. That's the Obamacare marketplace. They submit applications for fake people, enroll stolen identities, all to collect millions of dollars in improper fees from insurance companies for selling plans they never legitimately sold. Some of these agents refuse to follow basic rules, like providing their client's Social Security number. That, my friends, is a huge red flag.
These fraudsters deliberately pick plans with no premiums. No premiums means no bill.
From stolen benefits to bogus health coverage, the fraud pipeline keeps getting wider. Now investigators are turning to a different money trail. A federal grand jury probe into Neville Roy Singham and $278 million allegedly flowed to left-wing activist groups. A federal grand jury investigating China-based tech tycoon Neville Roy Singham over alleged financial improprieties involving $278 million that investigators say moved through his financial network over the past decade. Federal investigators are examining whether wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering, or other financial crimes were committed as hundreds of millions of dollars allegedly flowed through shell companies and the Goldman Sachs philanthropic arm into left-wing nonprofits and activist organizations. No charges have been announced, and the investigation remains ongoing. And here he is, the DOJ launching a grand jury probe into Marxist moguls' alleged funding of leftist groups. So the Fox report opens the door on the money. Now conservatives are saying the whole machine needs to be exposed. Eric Doherty highlights claims that Singham financed unrest while dodging scrutiny over possible fraud and money laundering. DOJ just surged a grand jury investigation into CCP-linked billionaire leftist NGO donor Neville Singham involving $278 million of possible financial improprieties. Officials are examining whether mass fraud or money laundering occurred as he financed NGOs and other groups. This comes after he was exposed for being behind a lot of leftist unrest and his links to the communists. Expose them all. Here is Representative Anna Paulina Luna.
Just so everyone is tracking, Neville Singham was referred to the Department of Justice, I believe, for FARA violations by then Senator Rubio when he served on the Senate Foreign Intelligence or Senate Intelligence Committee. Neville Singham, regardless of what you might feel about your colleagues, has been a mechanism and funding arm of the Chinese Communist Party. He's not a registered agent by FARA and has been connected to a number of riots, to include the anti-ICE riots being funded in Los Angeles, as well as a group that was tied to and being investigated for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, known as, I think it was the group of Socialism and Liberation, and then also to has been avoiding our request for him to come bring information to Congress. He is definitely someone that is anti-American in ideology, and regardless of where you might stand, even on topics like Israel versus Palestine, is funding certain groups that actually sow discord in this country with no efforts to actually resolve the issues, only to get us to fight one another. So I would encourage you all, at least if you don't politically agree with one another, to at least respect the fact that he is a known foreign agent to China, has not been registered as such, has been made to fund riots, and has been known to be the result of many of our own Americans being targeted with violence. And as a result of that, I do think that he should face subpoena. In the event that he's not subpoenaed, or that he does not answer the subpoena, I will be making a motion for inherent contempt. And I encourage my colleagues to support this motion.
I just want to add that I understand this concerns. I'm going to recommend that we vote yes on the Luna motion. I think the representative made clear her support for the deposition that we're going to have with Mr. Wexner, and so that's going to be my recommendation for our committee.
And if I could just answer the question. So as part of the rules, if subpoenas are not sent in the traditional fashion through the chairman, individual members can actually make motions where the committee as a whole can vote on it. And so because Neville Singham has been avoiding receipt of our request for him to come in and just give basic information, because he has been known to be funding these groups that are literally causing us to eat each other alive, even sometimes within the House of Representatives, I do think that he needs to answer for that. And so to answer your question, that is why I made the motion today.
Any other members wish to speak? Seeing none. All those in favor of the Luna motion as amended by the Garcia amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the motion as amended is agreed to.
Wow. So the allegations against Singham are getting sharper. Next, we'll show you why critics call him a CCP-linked radical. You're about to hear Singham in his own words praising a so-called New World Order pushed by China. The DOJ launches a grand jury investigation into CCP-linked Marxist millionaire Neville Roy Singham. Prosecutors are probing whether Singham laundered hundreds of millions through Goldman Sachs and shell companies to fund a radical left-wing Marxist groups in the U.S. for over a decade. He's a Shanghai-based tech mogul, openly called for a New World Order and praised Mao Zedong's People's War. Here is his own words.
This fascist lie that the West says that there's a battle between fascism, democracy, and communism. They make a fake argument that there are three systems. I think Vijay has done a very good job of explaining that, in fact, fascism is actually a face of capitalism and imperialism, as is colonialism. These are the three faces of a system that quite now is getting very, very dangerous for us. The reason I think this study and the role of the Global South Academic Forum and of China is this moment of history, if we want to understand international rules-based order, which is their favorite term, it was the Americans who took the Japanese scientists who conducted biological experiments against the Chinese, put them in off of any punishment. It was the English who took the Italian fascists and made sure they were not charged. The international rules-based order was created by another lie, which was that the fascists were all protected by the Americans and put into power in their countries, in Japan and in Italy. If we want to therefore have a new world order that is based on multilateralism that President Xi and CPC and China have proposed, we have to undo the ideological damage that has been done by the narrative of World War II.
So after hearing the rhetoric straight from Singham, the bigger point comes into focus. The fraud fight's not slowing down. Trump says investigators are uncovering hundreds of billions in stolen payments he says no other administration would have touched. Trump says he's obtained bombshell fraud payments totaling hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
A couple of very strong women, too. But I was watching that last night. I said, I'm proud of you guys. In 2 months, we've exposed tens of billions of dollars of defrauded taxpayer money, prosecuted numerous fraudsters, Todd, and stopped billions of suspicious payments, very suspicious. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet? What do you see? I'm getting reports from Todd, from JD. I've never seen anything like it. The kind of, just hundreds of billions of dollars was stolen. And no other administration would do what we're doing. Just let it go. Everybody was getting rich. And I think we have a chance to save Social Security without doing anything to it by just the numbers of fraudulent.
So the round-trip ticket matters. Abdikerm Eidleh booked Minneapolis to London, never came back. A tiny detail crushes the media lie that feeding our future was just local sloppiness inside Tim Walz, Minnesota. No. Amy Bach's empire and the people around it treated American welfare dollars like international loot. And one of the alleged top operators landed in Somalia before Trump's FBI hunted him down. Then Daniel Rosen drove the point home. Even in Somalia, you can't escape the FBI. Good. Now apply that same energy everywhere. To the fake Obamacare enrollees, to the hidden snap rolls, to Neville Roy Singham's $278 million left-wing cash web. The fraud cartel was never administrative drift. It was a protected business model built on your money. See, President Trump was right again. The theft was bigger than the regime admitted, broader than the media confessed, and dirtier than the bureaucrats can spin away. You do not get a fugitive in Mogadishu, secretive snap rolls in Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky, a million Obamacare files without Social Security numbers, and a $278 million CCP-linked NGO money trail by accident. You get that through years of deliberate non-enforcement, political cover, and open contempt for the taxpayer. So open every record, subpoena every state file, freeze every fraudulent payment, claw back every dollar that still exists, and drag every official who blocked oversight into public view with names, dates, and signatures. If you live in one of those states, send this to your governor and your attorney general and ask one simple question. What were you hiding? And drop your take below, because this cleanup just started and we're not letting the machine crawl back into the dark. And I want to take you out of the darkness and into the light by sending you the news that matters when it matters most. That's why I set up this telephone number just for you. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already texted the words raw feed to 844-840-4963. They are getting the news direct from me to their phone for the notifications that YouTube never sends. And make sure you celebrate America 250 with the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.